guys, Nerd 1, 2, and 2, and it's lesson 3. I think on the ritual video, one of my subscribers mentioned that he'd like me to talk about chains and spell speeds. So, we're going to talk about chains and spell speeds. Now, you younger players need to pay attention to this stuff because it's extremely important if you want to get into any more competitive levels of play. The main bulk of this video is going to be talking about spell speeds and what cards are what spell speed and what even the point of a spell speed is. However, before that, I need to explain a chain to you people, because otherwise the spell speed thing, there's really no context. Because that's the point of spell speeds. A chain is essentially, with a very bare bones, terrible explanation, though simple, is when you respond to one card with another card. That's a chain. For instance, if I activate Fire Formation Tenki and you activate Mystical Space Typhoon, we have now both participated in what is considered a chain in Yu-Gi-Oh! And our cards that we have activated are considered chain links. My card is chain link 1 because it's the first card to use, and your card, MST, is chain link 2 because it is the second card to be used. If there are no more cards being activated in this little dance we're doing, the cards start to resolve, and cards resolve backwards in chains, meaning whatever was activated last gets to get its effect off first. In this instance, it's Mystical Space Typhoon. It destroys my Tenki. Now Tenki tries to resolve, and it doesn't, and that's a whole different video right there. That's part 2, I guess. But needless to say, that's what a chain is. That's how chains work. Now let's get into spell speeds, the more important part of this video. What's a spell speed? Well, spell speeds are pretty much the game's way of telling you what cards can be activated in response to other cards. Hence, how you build chains. Why is it spell speed? Any effect in the game has what is considered a spell speed, so it doesn't necessarily need to be a spell card in order to have a spell speed, if that wasn't confusing. The speed of the spell speed describes what cards can be activated in response to what. There are 3 levels of spell speeds, 1, 2, and 3, with 3 being the fastest and 1 being the slowest. You can only respond to a card with a spell speed of equal or greater value. Therefore, if you activate a spell speed 3 card, being the fastest one, only other spell speed 3s can be used in response to it. Hence why spell speed 3s are so potent. What cards are what spell speeds? Well, the best way to do this is to start at the beginning. Spell speed 1. Spell speed 1 is actually the weirdest one. It has the largest, most diverse card pool in it, and has some of the weirdest rulings. Some of the weirder stuff, like goes on chain and all that other weirdo hooey crap, that's next video, so just don't worry about that. But to dodge any arguing in the comments below, most of the time spell speed 1 cards will be chain link 1 and actually starting chains. There's very rare instances where you get a chain link 2 that's a spell speed 1 and it's because 2 activated at the same time. Don't worry about that right now. What cards are spell speed 1? Well, we have normal spells, field spells, ritual spells, continuous spells, trigger effects, ignition effects, trigger-like effects, and ignition-like effects. Obviously, you guys know what a normal, field, equip, continuous, and ritual spells are, so I don't need to go over those. But those last 4 might be a little more confusing, so we'll go into those at least a little bit. An ignition effect is an effect of a monster. Ignition effects are effects that you ignite, you do yourself. Like, for instance, the effect that Blackluster Soldier has in order to banish a card on the field. You are choosing to do that during your main phase. It is an ignition effect. Trigger effects are effects that are triggered by stuff. For instance, Sangan going to the graveyard to get his search off. He was triggered because he went to the grave. Something had to happen for him to use his effect. That is also a spell speed 1. And then there's the confusing trigger-like and ignition-like. These tend to be continuous spells that are faced on the field already and aren't actually doing anything until something happens or you choose to have something happen. So they act like ignition and trigger effects that monsters have, but it's a continuous spell and it's doing its stuff later. I know it's really confusing, but it basically comes down to the difference between activating a card and activating an effect. And with continuous spells and continuous traps, there's weird instances where you can flip the card up or play the card and it doesn't necessarily do anything until you choose to do it. Again, that's probably another video. Spell Speed 2! Spell Speed 2 is probably the most important group we have. It doesn't have as diverse of a card pool as Spell Speed 1, but it's certainly more accessible than Spell Speed 3, and it has some really cool cards in it, so alright. The most important one is probably Quick Play Spell cards. Quick Play spells have a lot of utility because they can be activated from your hand on your turn as any other spell, except the fact that you can just drop them during any phase as long as the board conditions are met, and you can use them in response to other things. But you can also set them on the field and activate them like traps during your opponent's turn, so there's just tons of utility with quick play spells. But other cards that have spell speed 2 would be normal traps, continuous traps, quick effect monster effects, and quick like effects. There's that like again. Again, the quick like effect is similar to the trigger like and ignition like. It tends to be with face-up continuous trap cards this time that can be flipped up and you don't necessarily activate their effect at that time. Think Blaze Accelerator reloads second 2 abilities. You can just kind of do them when you flip it. You can do it later. You can never do it if you want, I guess. I don't know why you do that, but those are quick like. Quick effect monsters are also very potent. Think Trident. These are cards that say something to the effect of, during either player's turn, you can do whatever. The fact that it says during either player's turn implies that it's a quick effect, meaning you can activate it as if it was something like a quick play spell. Spell speed 3. Some of the more powerful cards in the game are spell speed 3. However, the card pool for spell speed 3 is much smaller, and it's only counter trap cards. Things like Solemn Warning, Solemn Strike, Dark Bribe, Wiretap, all these cards are really good and they put in a lot of work. The reason why these cards are considered so powerful is because at spell speed 3, you can only respond to them with another spell speed 3 card. Meaning the only way to negate Solemn Strike would be to hit it with something like Dark Bribe. And because a lot of decks tend not to run very many counter trap cards, you're probably going to be able to resolve your counter trap card uninhibited. And those are spell speeds. But before we wrap it up, I have one last point I want to hit on, and that is the so-called spell speed 4. I hate this term. It's bogus, it's malarkey, it's made up, it's like that neg 9 desires crap that's just not how the game works. The card that comes to mind for this is specifically Super Polymerization. It is a quick play spell, meaning it is a spell speed 2. It's a quick play. It's a spell. Spell speed 2. The reason why people refer to it as spell speed 4 is because it has a clause in the effect that says you can't chain to this card's effect. Meaning that if you flip this thing up, your opponent can't use something like, I don't know, Dark Bribe on it. Despite the fact that, you know, Dark Bribe has a higher spell speed. That doesn't mean Super Poly is faster than Dark Bribe, no. It just means that it has an ability by its own effect to be unchainable. That doesn't make it faster. There's no such thing as spell speed 4. That's confusing to younger players. All the pro players should stop saying it. It's stupid. It's bad Yu-Gi-Oh! Drives me nuts. There's your rant right there. But anyway, guys, I hope that video was as coherent as it sounded in my head. There's a lot of information that I had to dump, and it's like 90 degrees in here, and these lights are way too warm, so I'm going to try to edit this as best as I can. But anyway, guys, let me know in the comments below what you guys think of this series. I really like it, and I think next time we're going to go into more obscure rulings with chains, like missing timing and goes on chain and all that other bogus crap. And then I think we're going to get back to the special condition summoning monsters with our synchro video. So let me know in the comments below what you guys think, and remember, guys, if you don't troll the meta, who will? I'll see you guys next time.
You are now under the control of my Millennium Rod. You will subscribe to the channel, or watch the latest vid, and if not, you could watch whatever the f this is.